Congratulations. Spinning. Hare Krishna, thank you everyone for joining in. And we'll be starting now. Our session continuation of previous session, art of tolerance. Let me share my screen. Okay, let's get started with the prayers and then we'll start our discussion. So request everyone, please join me in chanting the prayers. You can just fold your hands and chant along. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nidhi Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Bhasha Dadeshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining, those for joining online and in person. Thank you for the session coming in. So we'll just give you a little recap because it's a continuation of the previous session. So it is not independently new session. So you should, those who are joining new or couldn't join last time, you'll also should have the idea of what we are talking in today's discussion. So we have been discussing this, one of the very, very important quality which Krishna talks, and that is the first and the foremost instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita we discussed last time, and that is text number 2.14, which talks about tolerance. So we've been discussing about the art of tolerance, and we discussed how Krishna is explaining why it is so important that one should have that quality of tolerance. If we don't know the tolerance, then we'll be so much consumed by so many things in our life, so many desires, so many situations, circumstances. And what is wrong in that? Dealing with so many things because we had to deal. So we discussed, and I hope that you got the essence of that is, if we don't choose our battle rightly, there's multiple battles in our life on different fronts. Can be some financial challenges or some personal life, some health challenges, relations, or it can be anything. Like, list is long. The point is, you cannot fight each and every battle because you have limited time, limited energy, limited resources. So tolerance means being mature. So as I explained in the last session, tolerance is not passivity, it is maturity. Passivity means that you become indifferent. Anyway, I had to tolerate. I had to tolerate. So why to do something about it? No, that is not the idea of tolerance. It's not passivity, it is maturity. Maturity of which battle to choose. There are 100 things are going on, but very intelligently, very smartly, you have to pick the right things, which are the most important thing. What is the purpose of life, which helps you to go towards your purpose. That's the whole idea. All right. So this immaturity, sometimes it can manifest in two different ways. One way of immaturity is inaction. If you don't understand this concept carefully, say, oh yeah, we have to tolerate. Then it can result in inaction. Oh no, I have to tolerate anyway. So why to bother too much about that? So that is also immaturity. You cannot tolerate each and everything. Krishna is saying you have to tolerate, but also is educating us what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. If that was the case, then he would have not spoken the entire Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. He said, anyway, whatever happened, you just tolerate and be happy. Why to fight, kill, and all of that? In fact, Arjuna was proposing that I don't want to fight. Krishna was saying no. That is foolishness. So when we are talking about tolerance, we should become mature. So one way of immature manifestation is inaction. And another side of it is that it can be in terms of impulsive action. like you couldn't tolerate and you become little, aggressive, and you spoil the relation, you spoil the whole situation. The situation become worse than the original problem, right? Like that. So both are immaturity. Both the ends of the tunnel are immature, either inaction or impulsive action. You should pick somewhere in between that how to deal with the situation. So that was the whole discussion that we had, long discussion and examples last time, that tolerance is not immaturity. Sorry, it is not passivity, but it is immaturity. And then we discussed about what to tolerate. There's a lot of things in our life which comes forth, we encounter. So we categorize them into four categories. We discussed about Vek Sahishnutta, and that different kind of urges are there, different kind of Vegas are there. So I did not ponder much on those Vegas last time. Probably today we can spend some time to understand. So it has been explained by one of the Acharya, Shri Rupa Goswami, in one of the book. I recommended last time. Again, I'm repeating. It is Nectar of Instruction. It's a small book, but very, very practical tips are there, especially those who are interested progress on the spiritual path, how to deal with the situation, and why it is called, or Nectar of Instruction. So the very first verse of that book explains the six kind of urges. We're talking about Vegas, Hishnu, the what are those Vegas, urges. So Prabhupada translate Veg in English as urges. He's not translating desires, because there is a difference between urges and the desires. Desire, we can have a lot of desires. Some desire is that, I want to go to US one day. So you work, you study, you find some opportunities, and it can happen, say, after 10 years, 20 years. Desire is there and you are working for that. But when we talk about urges, the very name itself explains urges means something is like very urgent, right? So those forces comes that you feel like it is very urgent to attain that. So some of the forces, like say in our body, say somebody had to go for washroom, something, it's kind of a force. So those kind of things you cannot say that tolerate. How long you will tolerate? Maybe just few minutes you can tolerate, but you have to attend. But Rup Goswami explained there are six kind of urges. So he explains. Let me just pull up the verse here. So I just gave you some recap already. We discussed about the sense objects and all that, the same thing. So this is the verse from NOI. You can see here. So it says, Vacho vegam manasa korut vegam, jiva vegam udarupastha vegam, etan vegan yo vishahet dhira, sarvam apimam prathvim sasishyat. So that's six kind of vegas. Vacho vegam, manasa, krodh vegam, jiva, udar, and upastha. Six items. What are the six items? Let us just spend some time to understand that. So vacho vegam means the urge to speak. Sometimes people, they want to talk something. They want that everybody should listen. I only should talk. I should not listen to anyone. The whole world should listen to me. It's a vegam actually. It's urge. So what to talk and when to talk and how much to talk is also needs little intelligence. If you speak the right thing at the wrong time with the wrong person, then the results will be counterproductive, right? So that needs little intelligence. You might be having a lot of wonderful ideas and you want to put forth, but understand that when to speak and how to present the ideas. So this is Vachuvegam. So if you don't know how to control these urges, suddenly you feel like talking something and you just pour out everything. And then you realize that, things has got worse. So this is Vachuvegam. So Prabhupada actually explains to him very precisely in that purport in this verse. He says that everybody wants to talk something in this world, but what we are talking all about worldly things. Most of the time, people are not talking even something which is materially speaking productive. They're talking all. Last time I was explaining in Sunday class, Gramya Katha, all the worldly talks uselessly, and especially with the help of social media, it has become so easy now. You can, comment on anybody's post, something you can criticize, you can condemn people and all of that. So that kind of opportunity is there. So we should control that urge of Vachovega. So instead of all the time talking uselessly, learn what to talk. And most importantly, to very precise when you talk something spiritual subject, which basically helps you to become more productive materially also, and also it helps you to advance spiritually as well. Right. So this is about Vacho Vegam. And Prabhupada compares this Vegam like he says sometime what do you say? This, this toads, they keep croaking. like in the rainy season, sometimes say that they come out and they keep croaking, make a lot of noise. They keep talking, and what happens as a result of that talking is the snake actually heard their, you know, this one, and they comes and eats them away. So similarly, our situation, we are like all those, croaking all the time, something we're talking, and then the snake in the form of the time is coming and devouring all of us. We're not realizing, and every second we are losing the most valuable thing in our life, which is time. Time has been explained that by spending millions of dollars, you cannot get even one moment back. What is gone already, right? Chanak Pandit says. So that is what is the value of the time. But we saw some time if we are not careful and so unproductively, so unconsciously, we just keep wasting time in terms of doing some silly things, backbiting, fault finding, social media, scrolling up and down, and all that. So this is all the part of this Vacho Vegam only. So Vacho not only just we're actually talking, but now it has expanded to typing also. Talking versus typing and all is Vacho Vegam. You can control. You want to you see something, you want to just make some comment on someone, which you have nothing to do with that person. Right. So this Vacho Vegam is very, very important. Then Manasa Vegam. Now, this is also another important thing. Krishna brings this concept of mind, and there are many, many verses in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna talks about this mind control, such an important item, the mind control. So this is Manasa Vegam. Mind has different ideas, and you want to do each and everything. So one should learn, one should become intelligent, one should tolerate. Okay, some ideas are emerging, no problem. You can execute, but hold on. Don't become restless. Don't act impulsively. Oh, I have some idea, I had to do this. Right? Take your time, contemplate, meditate, take some guidance, and then intelligently execute the idea. And then first you consider whether it is worth to spend time. So this is Manasa Vegam. So mind has been compared with like a small child. You see that how the child, a small child, is so restless. You leave a child in the house, he'll just mess up the whole house. He can't sit at one place at one moment, right? So the mother has to be constantly very, very watchful. And it is not good for the child. First of all, it is not good for the entire house. It will mess up the things. And also, it is very dangerous for the child himself. He might go sometime, put the finger into that power plug, or go and touch some hot surface or something like that. And it happens many times, right? Many cases, sometimes some kids, they just walk out of the house and they just walk on the road and some accident. So many things happens. So this mind is compared to that restless child. So consider that mind, because if you're not careful, mother, then you will end up messing up the entire situation. So if we are not like that guarding mother to this restless childlike mind, then it will create the havoc. And that is what happens. Most of the problem in this modern age is all mental problems. We talk about now mental health problems and all of that, right? Everybody's talking about that. Just because the mind is not controlled. So this is Manasa Vegam, and Prabhupada explained that how to control the mind. So can we control the mind? Is a question. Arjuna asked this question in the Bhagavad Gita, third chapter. And actually, he very honestly, not third chapter, fourth chapter, very honestly actually he submits in front of Krishna. Arjuna, who is a very, very powerful warrior. And he says that Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balabhadradam tashyaham nigraham manye vayoriv su duskaram. So he says, Chanchala hi mana Krishna, this mind is very chanchal, very restless, like childlike, right? And I can control the direction and the speed of the wind. Arjuna was that powerful warrior. So I can't control my mind. So that is the situation of Arjuna. What is our situation in Kali Yuga? We are like in a worse situation in this modern age. Constantly we are bombarded with so many different varieties of distractions, especially with the help of all smartphone, which is really very smart, but unfortunately it has made us into dumb. Right. So that is about Manasa Vegam. So Vacho Vegam and then Manasa Vegam. So one should learn to control the urge of the mind. So that has been explained. Actually, Krishna explains in those verses. When we read Bhagavad Gita, you understand that mind cannot be controlled, but mind can be engaged, can be dovetailed. Somebody try to control the mind, it is a failure. But what is the solution in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna suggests? That mind needs, like, Child cannot be controlled. If you leave the child, he'll be just keep running around all the time. So how do you control the child? You give him some toys, give some engagement, keep playing happily, and mother can cook in the kitchen happily, right? So that is how mind needs some engagement. Say control mind, control mind. Don't think anything. There should not be any thoughts. Focus on some light, something. These are all bogus concepts as per Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't work. It will not be successful. Maybe in a short term it can bring some results, but in the long run it cannot help. Right. Next. Next. Welcome. So yeah, so mind is like the child. So what you have to do is engage the mind. Now, what is the right engagement that we have to understand through Bhagavad Gita? What is the right engagement? Right. So the best engagement with the mind is Krishna consciousness. If we can engage in the service of Krishna, that can be the best engagement for the mind. And then we mold our life, design our life in such a way that all our activities are centered around Krishna. You can still do your work, you can still do a lot of things, but everything should be centered around Krishna. That is the way that is suggested. So this is Vacho Vegam, Manasa Vegam, then Krodh Vegam. Now I think there's nothing much to talk about this Krodh Vegam. I think we all have the first-hand experience of what is Krodh, what is anger, right? How dangerous it is. There was a news, it was like long back I read. So there was this father, who spent a lot of money, a lot of his life saving and get big car, very branded, some high class car. And it was parked in the garage. And the small child was there. And one time he was playing there and he had some sharp object, something. And as a part of play that, he scratched the entire car. And this father heart broke. Like he spent all his money, savings and all that brand new car. And he just scratched the brand new car. And then he couldn't control his anger and he started beating up the child. And he couldn't control to the extent that he beated him up, and then child fell unconscious there. And they had to rush to the hospital. By the time they reached the hospital, the doctor declared the child is dead. So that the anger can result in those kind of things, and we know many such examples, right? Sometimes people just argue and they get into fight and they go and hit someone and they kill someone and they murder someone and all of that. So this is Krodha Vegam. So one should learn how to control, how to tolerate this. So Vacho Vegam, Manasa Vegam, Krodha Vegam, then Jiva Vegam. What is Jiva? We already discussed about Vacho Vegam, talking all the time, right? And that is also tongue only. But now the tongue has the two functions. Tongue can act in two different ways. One way of acting the tongue is like a karmendriya, and also tongue acts as like a jnanendriya. So when we talk about the Vacho Vegam, it is more tongue's function is more of like a karmendriya. But when tongue is used for tasting the food, it acts like a jnanendriya. So now people don't know how to control the tongue in terms of eating, regulated eating. And that is also very dangerous. And I think some of you have the experience of, how people are. Actually, there is a report which says that more people die out of overeating than the hunger. That's the reality. Everybody is talking about the hunger, malnutrition, and all of that, remove the hunger. But nobody is talking about how to control this overeating tendencies. So that is why our scriptures guides us, and one should learn this Jiva Vegam also. Now, how to control this Jiva Vegam? So there are different ways of regulating the tongue. One thing which is practically suggested in Bhagavad Gita is that one should not eat something which is not offered to Lord Krishna. So anyway, that is a different subject. We'll take in some other session in detail. And what are the consequences of eating something which is not offered to the Lord? So if you regulate yourself, okay, I'll eat only which is offered to the Lord, which is like prasad. So you're already regulated. Otherwise, you walk on the road, you see something, you get tempted, and especially in India, I don't know how does it work here, but India, you go to the market and all that, tela and all that, you want to eat everything, right? Overeating and super overeating and all those things happens. So if you have this regulation, okay, whatever is offered to Krishna prasadam only I'll eat. Okay, and in the right consciousness. That is how you can start the regulation in your life, right? And of course, gradually when we grow old, we should become more mature, learn how to eat and how much to eat and when to eat. So this regulating eating can be done in two ways. One thing is the quantity and one thing is the quality. Quality means you eat only which is first class, which is offered to the Lord Krishna Prasad. That is about quality. And also quantity also should be done in a very regulated way. So this is about the Jiva Vegam. So Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam. And then Jiva, Udar and Upast, they are in actually one line. When you can't control your tongue, then Udar means the belly. So it is said here that one should control the urges of the belly. Some people, every time they feel like, oh, I have to keep munching, I have to keep eating and all of that. Some people have developed that kind of habit. Control the tongue, your belly urges will also be controlled a little bit. And then Jiva, Udar, Upastha Vegam, the urges of genitals, the sex urges. So that is also a very detailed subject. There's nothing wrong in that. Actually, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that I am the sex life, but dharma aviruddho kamosmi. Says the sex life which is not against the dharma, that is me. So in the sex, as per the scriptures, the sex life is actually considered very, very auspicious. As auspicious as Krishna saying it is me actually. But especially in this modern age, it has been so fantasized. Everybody is talking, but in a very, very perverted form. That is what has been condemned, and one should control that urge. For everything that in Krishna's creation, for everything there is a purpose. So the purpose of sex life is to bring the progeny. That is why Krishna says, as per the dharma, this act of indulging is actually very auspicious. So these are the 6 urges. So we discussed about tolerating the Vega Sahishnudha. These are the 6 Vegas. Just briefly I explained, not in detail. And then we discussed about Veg Sahishnudha. And then anybody remembers, can help me to recall what is the second one? Some test, memory test. I know Kali Yuga memory is very challenging. Okay, so one was Vek Sahishnudha, second one was Dvandva Sahishnudha. Dvandva means that there is always a different opinions, there is different clashes. So one should tolerate, you should not get into argument, fighting unnecessary, spoiling the entire situation. So that is Dvandva Sahishnudha. We want to control. Everything should happen as per what I wish, I desire. But that is not the reality of life. Things may happen, completely different what you are wishing. So that is Dvandva Sahishnudha. Third one we discussed about Parmata Sahishnudha, respecting others' opinion, tolerate. Don't try to all the time convince people that, okay, whatever my idea, my way is the highway. That is the kind of attitude sometimes people have. They won't listen others. They just only want to talk. Everybody should listen, but I should not listen. This is Parmata Sahishnudha. We always try to convince others. We cannot. Some people probably you can convince if you have good reputation, good influence, but not everybody would listen. There was this beggar. He goes to one lady and he knocked, not beggar, but saintly person. And he knocked. In those days, they used to go and beg the alms. So he says, Bhiksham Dehi. And this lady came out from the house and somehow she didn't have a good time in the house. Or something happened, family issue. And she was a little upset. And then she came and she was like already furious. And when she saw that, somebody is coming begging and disturbing already her privacy and all that, very upset. She said, okay, wait. And she went inside and then she took one handful of ash. In those days, like they use that coal-based stove, chula. And she goes and take handful of ash. And okay, this is the Viksha. She threw the ash on his, whatever, the cloth. And this says, very pleasingly he smiled and he said, thank you. And she was taken aback. He says, what kind of person he is? I just threw ash in his this thing and he's smiling nicely. So then she became little contemplative and thoughtful. She asked, hey, wait a minute, like I threw the ash and instead of you getting upset, you're smiling and you're thanking me. Why? Like, how come? So then he says that today you give me ash, tomorrow you can give me cash. Right. So a devotee should always be very, very hopeful. Don't try to impose your ideas immediately. Things might get materialized in the due course, but at that time you respect others' opinion also. Understand that. The person also has individuality. They have their own ideas, own perception. So listen, be open. So that was Paramata Sahishnudha. And the last one we discussed about Parmat Sahisnuta, and then what was the last one? Yeah, that is trying to convince. And another one was, I'm forgetting the name. Okay, so that there was some fourth one. So it was Dvanda Sahisnuta, Vek Sahisnuta, Parmat Sahisnuta, and then Par Utkarsh Sahisnuta. Like when people have more than you should be tolerant. Sometimes people become envious. How this person can have more than me? So these are all very subtle things. So these are all different Vegas that we should learn actually. Now, we already discussed all of this stuff in the last class. Question is how to tolerate. It is nice to hear that, oh yeah, we should tolerate. We understand we should tolerate. But when the situation comes, no tolerance. So what is the solution? So here is the solution, which Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. So actually, a desire to consume, desire to control, desire to convince, or desire to all of those things have very, very limitations. But we have unlimited desire to contemplate. So interestingly, if you see this word education, comes from the root word educare, which means to dig deep down, basically contemplate. So Krishna talks that see this modern education is teaching us how to manipulate the external things, the material things. It is okay, this is the problem, come up with solution, this, that, which is great. That is what is the modern education system is. But what is Krishna's education? What is Bhagavad Gita teaching? They're teaching not to all the time try to manipulate the externals, but exercise, stimulate your inner consciousness also. And that is what is the real solution lies here. Expanding the consciousness. That is what is our today's discussion. How to expand our consciousness. If you learn this art of expanding the consciousness, then you will see your ability to tolerate the situations, all what we have discussed, will be much higher and you will be more productive, right? So the solution is expanding the consciousness. We'll spend some time in discussing about how to expand consciousness and what it means to expand consciousness, right? I'll just give you one simple example. Okay, we discussed all of that. So expanding consciousness is, I'll quote this verse later. Before that, let me give you this example. What is this expanding of consciousness helps to tolerate? If you take a handful of salt and take a glass of water and you add that water, like salt into the water. So this glass of water has its own ability to dissolve. To a certain extent, it can dissolve the salt, but it has own limitation. And at one point, it cannot dissolve anymore. So if your consciousness is very narrow, very small, like the glass of water, then how much you can absorb, how much you can tolerate is also very, very limited. But you see, the ocean, how much salt is there in the ocean? Practically, we say that it is unlimited. And you go and add more, how much ever you want to add, it can still absorb, right? So that is what exactly through this example, what I'm explaining is expanding consciousness means currently we might be having our own size, glass like, small, narrow minded thought process, perception, the information. We had to learn through this Krishna conscious, through Bhagavad Gita, how to expand and make our consciousness into ocean like, unlimited consciousness. If you learn that art, so that is what actually Krishna explains here. To quote this verse, please repeat after me. It's a very, very important verse and very nice verse and very instructive verse from Bhagavad Gita. So let us recite it 2-3 times so we get familiar and then I'll explain this. So it goes like this. Apuryamanam machala pratishtham samudramapaha pravishanti advat advat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakam kami aपूर्यमाणं मचलप्रतिष्ठम् समुद्रमापा प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामयं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी. So translation by Srila Prabhupada, he writes, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers into the ocean which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So this is exactly the concept we are talking about, tolerance. So you see, all the rivers, they keep entering constantly into the ocean. But ocean is so unlimited, it doesn't really cross its brink. Oh, a lot of water is coming in, so now it is overflowing. It never overflows. Right? Similarly, if your consciousness becomes ocean-like, then all this river flowing, the desires, river-like desires, constantly keep flowing. A lot of desires, a lot of ideas, but your consciousness is ocean-like, then you still remain calm. Still. So that is the whole idea. Now we'll be talking about how to do that. So we're talking about expanding consciousness. So this concept is coming from this particular verse. How to expand your consciousness? It should become like samudra mapaha. It should become ocean-like, very vast, very expansive consciousness. So how to expand our consciousness is a question now. There are two ways of looking at it. One thing is when we start reading Bhagavad Gita. So what Bhagavad Gita does, we have discussed earlier, Bhagavad Gita did not change, it does not change your externals. You are going through some situations, some challenges in your life, some problems. So you start reading Bhagavad Gita, you come to temple, you chant Hare Krishna, say now all problems gone. No, that is not the promise of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. What happens? It does not change your externals, but it stimulates your inner consciousness. And that is what we are talking. We have unlimited potency to expand our consciousness, to exercise our consciousness. So when you read Bhagavad Gita, what it does, it gives you an alternate perspective on looking at the situations. I'll give you one example. This famous story that there's one person who was left behind on one island, and from the entire group, he lost, and he was all alone. He was shouting, "Please help! Please help!" Nobody was there to listen to him. And in few days, he figured out that I had to, maybe this is my fate, this is my destiny. I had to learn to live and manage myself here. So he learned in few days. He found some fruits and some berries and some trees, and he ate and managed. And then he started collecting some small sticks and some grasses and all that. Made a hut. And in few days, he became conditioned to that kind of lifestyle. He was eating, peacefully living, and doing something in the sitting in the hut. One day when he went out for something, he came back and he was shocked to see that his hut was on fire. And it was very, very disappointing to him. He looked up in the sky and he started shouting and crying and cursing the Lord. My dear Lord, why, how you can become so cruel? First of all, I was lost here on this island. Somehow I managed. You did not show any mercy that time, but I managed. I never complained. Now that also you couldn't tolerate. You put my small hut on fire. He was cursing like that, and soon he realized that in that water somebody was coming, some rescue team was coming, and soon they arrived here and they just picked him. And then he was a little curious. He asked, "Hey, how come like I've been here and I tried many times in many ways to shout out and nobody comes to help? How come suddenly today you came to help?" He says, "Actually, we are going through and suddenly we saw that there's like big cloud of smoke in the sky. And we thought there is a fire in some forest or something. Let us go and see and do something about that." So this is bigger picture. Sometimes with our narrow mind, like glass size consciousness, you cannot see. And we start complaining, cursing ourselves, cursing God. So why all these bad things happening, right? So when we are talking about expanding our consciousness means learn how to see the bigger picture. That anything that happens may not be good in your life, but anything that happens in your life, something good can come out from that. We should always remember everything. We should not expect that, oh, I'm a devotee of Krishna, I go to temple, I read Bhagavad Gita, I chant Hare Krishna. So everything what happens in my life should be all good. This is very unrealistic expectation. That is not how the life works. So don't have any unrealistic expectation. But the formula is this, that anything that happens may not be necessarily good, but for sure something good can come out from that. Something happens in your life, the so-called bad, right? But it depends on how you take that situation. The two things, if you put the wood log into the fire, what will happen? The big fire is there, put the wood log. What happens? It turns into ashes, right? It will finished. But if you put the gold into the fire, what happens? It comes out shining. They say that gold has to shine, then it has to go a lot of heat. So now It is all about what is your consciousness. It is wood-like or it is gold-like. If it is wood-like, then is everything is devastated, everything is so this thing, God is not kind, God is not merciful. My fate is bad, my destiny is bad, my life is worst, and I'll just go and commit suicide. Some people does that. It's like a wood-like consciousness. They won't understand that something good can come out from this fire-like situation. So we should learn. So that is what Bhagavad Gita helps us. Krishna consciousness educate us to, it helps us to realize that we all are gold like, we are not wood. You might be thinking yourself wood like, but it educate you that no, you are gold like. You are not this body. Something might go wrong to the body, it's okay. But you are not the body, you are something. Your real existence is beyond this body as a soul which is indestructible. Your body may get completely destructed. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire, Krishna says that if your body is completely destroyed, but your real self, nothing happens with the soul. So Bhagavad Gita actually guides us. So that is what is the idea of expanding our consciousness. So we learn from this kind of a story. There's a famous story of this Titanic. This one farmer, Scottish farmer, Mr. Clark. Some of you know this story already. So this Mr. Clark, when he heard about this luxury cruise liner, which is about to sail from UK to US, and then he had a dream that me, along with my wife and my 5 kids, we should, in its first voyage to US, we should go in that cruise. And then he started saving a lot of money and practically spent all his single penny just to buy the unrefundable tickets to go onto that cruise because it was meant for some high class people. He was just a farmer. So he spent that money. And then just before the 5 days before the voyage, uh, one dog actually bitten one of the son, one of the child, and the doctor actually suggested the quarantine that you should all not go. And his heart was broken. He already spent all his life saving and no refunds. And then he came that day. It was on April 10th, 1912. He came there standing, crying the tears of disappointment and cursing himself and cursing God also that my life is lost, everything is lost, nothing, I couldn't make it. And he was crying there. Somehow the cruise left. And it was on 15th of April 1912. The news broke. The Titanic sank. So sometimes we are so narrow-minded, we cannot see the bigger picture. What seems like something which is very devastating, actually, it might be a big protection for you. So that is why this expanding consciousness actually helps. So we should always remember it is not we alone that we plan and execute, but there is always a divine hand of the Lord. If you always remember, and if you are very, very conscious about all of those things, then you can see the things in a different perspective. Right. So that is what is the meaning of this expanding our consciousness. So we should read Bhagavad Gita constantly and hammer all those concepts into our head, that it is not me alone. Krishna says, Ahangar Bimulatma Karta Hamiti Manyate. One who thinks that I am the only Karta. What I am doing, I am very intelligent, I am very smart. I know how to do, how to handle, how to deal. That person is Ahankar Bimulatma. Krishna uses very strong words. That person is Bimudatma, is foolish person. Out of false ego is thinking that I am the only doer. Yes, we do a lot of things, we plan a lot of things, but we are just one small part of the entire program. A lot of other factors are also constantly working. So that is the understanding. So our perception, changing our perception, changing our consciousness, it depends on 3 items. What are the 3 items? One is nature, one is nurture, and one is your spiritual divine connection. Nature means how do you look at the things? So nature is some past impressions are there. Nurture means your upbringing, what kind of upbringing you are into. That is how based on that upbringing you see the situations and all of that. But also very important item is our spiritual connection that actually can turn around the entire perception. So you cannot change your nature. We all have our own nature in a particular way. And then upbringing, whatever happened. You cannot go back and change it. But you can always work on spiritual connection. So we start working on this spiritual connection, then you will see that how your entire consciousness is expanding and your perception is changing. And that is what is the meaning of expanding our consciousness. So, what is this expanding consciousness? Expanding consciousness, in simple words, is Krishna consciousness. That for everything you have Krishna in your mind. You bring Krishna into the picture, that ultimately Krishna is the supreme controller. I'm not the controller. I think I am the controller. I'm controlling the people. I'm controlling the situation. But that is Ankar Vimulat. Ultimately, Krishna is the supreme controller. With that perspective, you will start looking at the things, then you will never lament, you will never curse yourself or curse God or not be disappointed. But you will know that, okay, something happens, Krishna is the bigger plan and the higher plan, right? So we should always learn all of that. Krishna's hand is always there. And for that, we had to establish the spiritual connection. So how the spiritual connection happens? Through this process of Krishna consciousness, by chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, that every day we call out the name of the Lord, which is the easiest means, which has been recommended in this modern age. And when we chant this Krishna's name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, you establish that connection with the Lord. Because Scriptures explains Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna. Krishna is descended in this modern age in the form of his holy name. Kali Kale Nam Rupa Krishna Avatar. Krishna is descended in the form of the holy name. So when you chant Krishna's name, you're directly accessing all Krishna's power. And then think that if you have access to all the powers of Krishna, how powerful you become, right? So that is the connection. So we should work on this connection instead of always try to control the externals. Start working on your internal consciousness, stimulate your real consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness. And then when you do this, and as very rightly this verse says, that a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desire that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled. So this analogy is a very, very apt analogy, because ocean is self-satisfied. Ocean is not in need of any water. So whether more water comes or it doesn't come, ocean doesn't lament or say, hey, why water is not coming. Ocean itself sufficient in itself. So similarly, if our consciousness becomes ocean-like, if we bring the ocean into our consciousness, and what is this ocean bringing into consciousness? How to bring on? So Krishna has actually has been explained like ocean. Ras Raj Sri Krishna. So Krishna is the ocean of mercy. Krishna is the ocean of all the pleasure. Krishna is the ocean of all the rasas. So like that, Krishna has been used as ocean. So if you can bring Krishna into your consciousness, that is Krishna consciousness, then you are not disturbed by entering the flow of all these rivers. Different desires, different ideas get agitated. You still remain very calm and cool. Not the person, sa shanti apnoti na kam kami. Who can attain the shanti? Who can live peacefully? One who has the ocean-like consciousness. He can live shanti like very peacefully. Not the person na kam kami. One who is the desirer of desires. One who always work to execute all the desires, every single desire you want to act on. That is the whole idea of art of tolerance. Become intelligent. Tolerance is not passivity, it is maturity. Choose your battle very rightly. You should know that what is the most important items in my life. So along with all our material ambitions, in that also everything you cannot do in your life, you have limited time, limited energy, resources. We cannot execute each and everything. Along with all of that, most importantly, the most important item of our life is execute Krishna consciousness. In this human form of life, it's the only rare opportunity where we can actually establish our connection with the Lord. No other form of life, 8.4 million species, no other form enables you to access this special opportunity. Right. That establishing our connection. So spend some time amidst of all your busy schedule and a lot of other things that you can have the reasons. So spend some time to establish your connection with Krishna. That is why it is highly recommended. We keep recommending that every day we should chant this Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When you start with chanting one round of Hare Krishna Mantra, keep increasing little by little. And also spend some time reading this wonderful wisdom, Bhagavad Gita. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And as last time also I announced that we have this platform where every evening we all connect on Zoom just for 15 minutes, 8:30 to 8:45. Because I know sometimes people want to do and then they find it very challenging or you keep forgetting, you forgot completely. So we have this group where we send you the reminder that hey, come and join. 10 minutes, we chant one round of Hare Krishna mantra, and 5 minutes, we read one verse of something from Bhagavad Gita. It's like a thought for the day. You can contemplate, meditate before you go to bed, and next day also, whole day you can contemplate. So this is a small dose, but that helps to establish your connection with Krishna. And that is how you'll start seeing and realizing that how your consciousness is expanding. See the bigger and bigger picture. Right. This Brahmaji in the Srimad Bhagavatam quotes this very famous and powerful verse. He says, Tatte nukampa su samikshmanaha munjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvag bapurvir vidadhan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade saddhaya bhak. So what Brahmaji is saying, Tatte nukampa, that my dear Lord, everything that happens in my life, I see it as te anukampa. It is your mercy. I see everything as your mercy, your blessings. Whatever so-called good or so-called bad, so ultimately everything is your blessings. So if we learn this art, we develop this kind of consciousness that is called expanded consciousness, and everything is a blessing of the Lord. We need, sometimes we can understand that how it is blessing, sometimes, most of the time, not sometimes, these blessings comes in disguise. What you think and you feel and you perceive as like, oh no, this big disaster in my life, and that will turn out to be something, the great boon and blessing. We discussed many examples. So when Srila Prabhupada, he was ordered by his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur in 1922, when he was young, 26-year-old, and he was already into Grasta life, householder life. He was having his own pharmaceutical business, doing well, great. And he met his spiritual master first time. He gave him the standout instruction. He says, you are a young, educated man, should go to the West and share this wisdom of the Sanatana Dharma, this Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam, to the Western audience. 1922, Prabhupada was touched by that instruction. And then he started working while he was into his household life and all that, along with his business and everything. He worked in different ways and means. And there was multiple failures. And then Prabhupada was getting old, was doing different ways. It's a long story, short. In 1965, Prabhupada sailed through and he came here. It was on August 13th, 1965. So when he started his endeavor in 1922, and when he could execute 1965, almost like what, 43 years of preparation. And in between, it was not easy journey. So multiple failures from different fronts and all of that. It's very inspiring story. Prabhupada's life itself is very inspiring. So see, these devotees, because they have the bigger expanded consciousness, they're never disappointed in any kind of failure. Because they understand, Tatte Nukampa, everything is the blessing of the Lord. If Krishna is not allowing and sanctioning this idea, that opinion, this way of executing something, it means Krishna had the better plan. And actually speaking, it was revealed later when Prabhupada came here. Prabhupada actually tried to start the movement in Jhansi, in India, in MP. So he thought I'll start something and while executing my business and all of that, and then probably I can just start preaching and all that. It did not work out. And like that, many things did not work out because Krishna had a bigger plan. Krishna wanted to give something big. So 2 days back when we are celebrating Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Maharaj appearance day, it was Prabhupada's Guru's appearance day, 150th anniversary. So we played one lecture, Prabhupada spoke, and he was sharing there. He was saying this very nicely. He's saying what when God wants to take something away from you, he take like many hands, 10 hands, unlimited hands, take away everything. How can you protect yourself with 2 hands? But when God wants to give you something, then also he'll give it 10 hands. How much you can take in 2 hands? And then Prabhupada was saying, I am the practical example. Krishna had taken away everything in my life. Prabhupada's business collapsed. Again he started, again collapsed, multiple times. He left family. Family was not supportive because he was too much into all that. They said, what you are doing? They're not supportive. Multiple failures. And Prabhupada was sharing that I became practically like a beggar. No money. He took sannyas. He was in Vrindavan. And he was like very ambitious about printing books. But as a sannyasi, no money. How you will print books? He'll literally go and beg. He'll go and meet different people because he was earlier into business. So he has some contacts. He'll go and can you sponsor some publishing and multiple failures like that. So Prabhupada was saying that I was practically like a beggar. Krishna took away everything. So that I become completely dependent on Krishna. And when you become completely surrendered to Krishna, that we discussed, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja, you come completely surrender to me, then Aham Tvam Sarupapyabhyo Mokshishami. Masujan, that is Krishna's promise. You surrender, then you will see the magic. And we see the magic in Prabhupada's life. And Prabhupada came to America, he came with 40 rupees. Now, can you imagine that Indian 40 rupees in America? What is the value? It was in 65, but it's still no value, 40 rupees. And the interesting part of the story is Prabhupada started preaching, and in the due course, the whole thing emerges out, and a lot of centers they opened in just few years and all of that. And after 2, 3 years of so much of expansion of Krishna consciousness in US, one time Prabhupada went back to India, in Delhi. He got down on the flight and he took a rickshaw from airport to some place, one temple. And that is when he took out those 40 rupees and spent to rickshawala. So even that 40 rupees also he did not spend. So the point is, if you surrender to Krishna with that faith, Prabhupada says, actually, I was practically a beggar, but my only wealth was the strong faith in the words of my spiritual master. My guru said that you should do, and with that faith in the words of my guru and Krishna, I came. It's a very, very daring step. It's very nice to hear all this story. Think, imagine yourself in that kind of a situation. You're an old man, 70-year-old, going to some alien place, never been before, with 40 rupees, no connections, no contacts. You won't even feel inspired to take such a step. Prabhupada came. How it is possible? Unless you have such an expanded consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness, full faith in Krishna. We discussed that. Avashya Rakhi Ve Krishna, iti Vishwasa Palananda. Krishna will surely give me all the protection. Yoga Kshemam Vahamyam. Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, I provide what you lack and I preserve what you have. Faith. So this is called expanding Krishna consciousness, expanding our consciousness, remembering Krishna's instructions, applying them at the right time. And then you will see you will have a lot of tolerance. So these are some thoughts on art of tolerance, how to tolerate. So we discussed in detail, the tolerance is not passivity, it is maturity. Not that everything you have to tolerate, but very intelligently figure out what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. And at the same time, don't get into the trap of doing everything and get consumed by executing each and every single idea. And how we can tolerate is by becoming more and more Krishna consciousness, seeing Krishna's hand, Krishna's intervention in your life. And then you'll have that courage to take the steps like that. So I'll pause here, and I know that many people might be having a lot of questions. You can take up some questions. I already have some questions in the chat. But yeah, feel free to ask, raise your questions or any point, any comment anybody wants to add, here in person or online. Those who are online, you can either unmute yourself or put in the chat. Or anyone here. Okay, so there is a question already here. Okay, so my question is, will the mentality of an ocean-like consciousness make you more lazier and unmotivated of a person? Yes, that is a very, very important question, that you say, oh no, everything is cool, Krishna will take care and all of that. So we discussed, I think you can go back and check the last week's session. So talking about the 4 kinds of motivation in life to work. Anybody remembers what are the 4 levels of motivation? People has to start taking notes. Kaliga memory is like that only. It doesn't last for 1 week.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna
No
Prabhu.
problem. So it is fear,
Fear,
desire,
desire,
duty, and love.
bhakti, and love.
What is the motivation? Oh, fear. If I don't do this, then there would be some problem. And then you have some desire. If I do this, I'll get that. Then you become more mature than out of duty. Oh, it is important for me to take care of these things, right? It is my duty, whether I get something in done or not, but I do. But the highest and the topmost level of motivation is love. In the love, there's no conditions. Love means the real love. This is a pending topic. We will talk sometime. What is real love? Everybody is talking about love. All movies, all the cinemas, all the novels, everybody is talking about love. Bhagavatam is also talking about love. Is it the same? We'll understand that. But the real love means it is selfless service. So if somebody is motivated by the love, the closest example we can understand is the newly born child and the mother. Mother does everything possible, going out of her way to take all the trouble and all the difficulties to take care of the child. In turn, she doesn't get anything from the child at the time. That is the closest example, just to understand. So somebody is motivated by love, then you will do everything. So ultimately, the solution is we have to fall in love with Krishna. That whatever you want to do, you want to serve Krishna in so many ways. So then, whatever work you're doing, your work, your money making, taking care of your family, keeping Krishna in center, then that will be a driving force and that will be a great motivation. So that is the answer to your question. Hope it helps. So any other question or any other comment? Anyone? Okay. So people have already understood everything, which is great. As my presentation was good. Okay, so now we'll just do. So the practical tips of expanding consciousness, becoming Krishna conscious, simple formula is every day chanting the holy name. That is where the whole journey begins. So we can talk all these big things, very nice concepts, a very nice lecture, Hari bol, and then go away, not be of much help. But we should start putting in some steps, some baby steps. So again, I'm just repeating and reminding you, those who want to take the advantage of this evening call, 8:30 to 8:45. I'll ask someone to post in the group. You can join and please try it out for some days at least and see if you really feel inspired, continue that. So it is just for 15 minutes of investment, but the outcome is wonderful. You will see that how you're becoming more and more Krishna consciousness in just 15 minutes. Okay, there's another question. When we chant, someone disturbs in between. Is it okay to pause and continue, or should we restart? Yeah, it is okay. There's nothing wrong. But again, as I said, there are different ways of doing the things. So we should, if we have some opportunity to chant without any distraction, without any disturbance, that is the top class. If circumstantially in the family, some kids are there and all that, it is okay, no problem. We have to be a little practical about certain things. Okay. So if anybody has more questions, you can just put here. Okay, I see here. If Prabhupada was so big devotee, how he could not transform his own family? He literally inspired whole world. Thank you. Yeah, it's a good question. Prabhupada changed the whole world. How he couldn't only inspire his own family? How they were not supporting, right? Yes. So that is what is needed, little bigger picture. It's not like that it was impossible for Prabhupada to change them. But then always Krishna has the bigger plan for his devotees. He couldn't even start the movement in India. So somebody can ask this valid question that he was such a great devotee, then how he couldn't start in India? Because Krishna was having a bigger plan for Prabhupada. So his plan was not only limited to doing convincing his own family and then remain stuck in the family, but come out from the family and then start a big movement for the sake of the whole world. Mataji, I'll also need one mala. Hope that answer your question. You can put more questions. Now, quickly let us all chant together. And I request those who are not yet started, please every day take out some few minutes and chant daily. 10 minutes chanting, 5 minutes reading, 8:30 to 8:45. And you can join and you can inspire other, your friends, family, somebody wants to join. Amata, you can post in the group later the details about that.